All right, here we go. Me and Ricky are back to talk about the Bulls, who are surprisingly not tanking. And the last time we talked, it was before the season, and we were previewing a season that we thought was going to be tank-tastic, lots of losses, maybe some good stuff from the young guys. But now we're about midway through the season, and the Bulls are 17-28, which obviously is not a good record, but it is much better than we ever could have expected. The Bulls had a 3-game winning streak going into the game against the Golden State Warriors last night. And while it looked like several times that they were going to get blown out, they came back each time. They made it a competitive game. It was a fun game. While their young core three guys didn't have their best games, we saw other guys like Nico Mirotic had another huge game. David Nwaba shut down Steph Curry in the second half, as well as anyone could shut down Steph Curry. He didn't score for like the last whatever. Like I don't think he scored in the fourth quarter. Didn't score for like the last 15 minutes or so of the game. There were other strong performances from some of the bench guys. And it's just kind of indicative of how the Bulls have been playing lately in general. They've gotten stellar performances from across the roster now that they've gotten healthy, with Nico back, with Nwaba missing time, with Dunn back, even though Dunn face planted into the ground yesterday. That was pretty ugly. Just in general, they've been playing a lot better basketball, a lot better than we ever thought they would. Ricky, what do you make of this recent surge? What it means for the future, the draft, the long-term prospects of the team? What did you like about yesterday's game? Let's hear it.
I'm just going to say in general, and this is the biggest upset of the entire season to me, I love watching the Bulls this year. Like, when the Bulls are on, I want to watch them, which is not something I anticipated saying coming into the year. I think that they've become a lot of fun, especially lately now that you add Zach LaVine to the mix, because that's just another player who gives them – well, obviously he's going to be a long-term piece, but he's just like instant offense when he's in the game. I was at his first 2 games, and his jumper just has not skipped a beat. He's been money. I know he struggled a little bit yesterday against the Warriors, but of course that's going to tend to happen against a team like that, especially when he's played whatever it was, like 3 games in 5 days or whatever. So I think the Bulls have been a blast to watch so far. I am definitely pleasantly surprised, and I got some stats I can quote for you off the top of this. With Mirotic, they're 13-7 in games he's played. That's a 65% winning percentage. And over the course of the season, that's a 53-win team. So that's what it's been like since December 8th when Mirotic made his return. And I mean, I don't think any of us saw this coming.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. Like, I've been, like, when I came into the season, like I said, we talked about, we expected them to be bad. I was all about team tank. This upcoming draft's got a ton of studs at the top. And, like, it is definitely a lot of fun to watch them play. I still kind of hope that they can settle. Like, they've been the 53 win pace that they've played with lately. I'm still kind of hoping they do make some trades, whether it's Rolo, Nico, Justin Holiday, some combination of those guys, and that if they could settle in and play this really fun style, we see the young guys develop. But if they lose games and end up maybe with, I think that top 2, top 3 pick is probably out the window at this point. There are some really bad teams out there. The Kings, the Magic, the Hawks, they're all really awful. There's kind of a glut where the Bulls are at with some of those other teams like the Grizzlies, Suns, Mavericks, and all those teams, where I'm hoping the Bulls can still kind of settle into like a top 6, 7-ish pick, and they can still get a really good player. But if they could keep playing like this and playing well while losing some of the close games they've been winning, because we talked about that, you mentioned that record with Nico. They've been doing a lot of winning in close games, which is something that's really surprised me. Last night, they obviously they got blown out for portions of the game. Then they came back and made it close and weren't able to pull it out. But there's been a lot of these games that have been tight right down the wire, and they've been pulling out these wins, which is really surprising for a young team. And it almost makes me go, like, there's times where it's like, oh, yeah, it's really nice to see these young guys win these games. On the other, it's like, well, if they would just, like, end up losing a few more of these, maybe they end up with that top 3 pick. It's kind of a dilemma. But overall, it is much more exciting to watch than we ever thought, because that the first part of the year, they weren't only just bad, they were just miserably awful, and we thought maybe it'd be like this the whole year. But it's been really nice to see some of the young guys really come along lately. You mentioned Zach LaVine. He obviously, like you said, he had a poor game yesterday, but it was awesome that the first couple games where he looks like he hasn't missed a beat athletically. Just the way he's moving around the court, the way he gets his jumper off, like he can get his jumper off at any time. It's really awesome to see that. And hopefully, obviously, they'll have a big decision on him this summer. So that has been really, really fun to watch him. Lauri Markkanen has been one of the best. Where would you put Lauri in this rookie class? I guess you could include Ben Simmons in that. Like, do you think he's a lock for first team all rookie? Like, where would you place him behind? So, like, there's obviously a lot of rookies are playing really well.
All right, just to spin it back to last night real quick. So the Bulls just got torched in the third. But besides for that, they were awesome. Especially the end of the first quarter was just phenomenal. I think they scored 8 points. That quarter. They hung tough in the second. They fought back in the fourth, but in the third, they just got crushed. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I feel like Mirotic didn't play much in the third. Like, he did a lot of his scoring either in the first half or in the fourth. They need more Mirotic in general. Mirotic is their best player, and I've thought this at a few games I've been at recently too, where like Mirotic needs to be on the floor. Like, Hoiberg has to realize he's their best player. He should be leading the team in minutes per game. I think even if he's not starting, that's fine. He's obviously going to close. They've been closing with the Mirotic marketing lineup. But to speak to how resilient this team's been lately, when Chris Dunn got that steal and dunk and then fell on his face, that cut the lead to, I want to say 5.
It was 5, like 3 minutes to go.
Yep. 3 minutes to go. So he has to come out of the game. I'm thinking, if Chris Dunn doesn't have to come out of the game, the Bulls are winning this. Now, that's ridiculous to think against the Warriors. But they were on a mad run there at the end, and they were playing really good ball. The thing I like about Hoiberg in general is that the Bulls just play wide open basketball, and everyone has a green light. Like, there's not one guy on that team that has even like a yellow light. Everything is all green, go, go, go. The fact that they're giving Chris Dunn this type of opportunity, I don't know the stats in front of me, but I want to say his true shooting percentage is like straight garbage. Is that correct? Can you fact check me?
I think it's like 48, which is really bad. Like,
it's even worse than I thought. Yeah. But Chris Dunn's got a green light to do absolutely everything on the floor. So I hope that that's, beneficial, not detrimental for his development long term. I think, as this goes on, Markkanen's going to be either your first or second option. Levine's going to be either your first or second option. Then you get another guy. So this is Chris Dunn your fourth option. If Chris Dunn your fourth option, he's got to play more off the ball, on the ball defensively, but off the ball offensively, he needs to develop into a little bit more of a spot up guy. So to me, I don't know. I'm just running through both. I feel like Dunn's a swing guy for the long term. Markkanen, I think, has been absolutely phenomenal. So much better than I thought he would be coming into this year. When the Bulls drafted him, I said that I would have preferred the Bulls to take Malik Monk or Dennis Smith with that pick. I automatically reversed course on that opinion. I would so much rather have Markkanen than Dennis Smith, who's looked good, or Malik Monk. You just did not see this athleticism at Arizona when he was playing in a 2 big lineup the majority of the time with Dusan Ristic for a team that plays a slow pace in Arizona. I didn't think he was this quick. I never saw him get up and down the floor like this. I never saw him play in space, which was really the problem because I did a video on Twitter about maybe a month ago now of Markkanen off the dribble. And his off the dribble game has been really impressive to me. He's able to put the ball on the floor, create his own offense way more effectively than I thought he'd be able to. It's almost like he's undergone a few seasons worth of development. As I saw someone say on Twitter, I think it was from Brian Schroeder, that just in this one rookie year, which I totally agree with, because his game has been rapidly improving. I would not put a ceiling on how good Lauri Markkanen could be at this point, right? Like, could he be an all-star? I know Hoiberg, or Steve Kerr said he expects him to be an all-star eventually. I would say, hell yeah, he can be an all-star eventually. I'm not going to put a cap on a ceiling because he's been really impressive to me so far. And I think, the good thing about the Bulls long-term is you got one piece for sure. Like, Levine, I've always liked Levine's game, but he's trash at defense. He's someone who's never graded out very well in the advanced stats. But I still like Levine's game. Hopefully he'll be around. Will he end up living up to the contract of like a $20 million player or whatever? That remains to be seen. Same thing with Dunn. I don't know if Dunn's going to be the long-term point guard of the future, but Markkanen, that's one. He's awesome. That's one piece.
Yeah, I'm with you. You mentioned Dennis Smith Jr. and like Malik Monk. Dennis Smith, I know he's looked a lot better lately. Malik Monk has been like disastrous, I'm pretty sure. And obviously it's super early in his career, but I don't think anybody could have expected Lowry to be this good this quickly. And it seems like every coach, when the Bulls are playing all these other teams, and every coach is just marveling at him. He made history the other night, quickest player in NBA history to hit 100 3-pointers. And it is just awesome. I wrote something the other day for Bloggable about how the Bulls have been shooting the three really well lately. They did not shoot well last night. They shot like 10 of 39. Markkanen didn't have the greatest game, but just how I just love that Hoiberg has done a really good job, I feel like, getting Markkanen good shots from outside. Obviously, he's primarily a 3-point shooter right now. He'll need to fill out his game in terms of post-up, in terms of taking off the dribble, in terms of getting to the line.
He's better stuff already than I thought he was going to be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But in terms of being like a legit number one option when defenses are keying on him, it's like, especially when I was watching that Knicks Bulls game, and we looked at the difference between, and Markkanen outplayed Porzingis, but we look at the difference in that game, like, the Bulls were running great stuff for Markkanen, just rained threes, and then he was opportunistic getting other baskets, and he had the awesome huge dunk. And then Porzingis was kind of doing all this other lame, like he shoots a ton of contested long twos, doesn't get that many good looks, which is a testament to Fred and the offense that they're able to get Markkanen all those good looks. And I just love that he's, like you mentioned, the Bulls wide open and they have a green light. Markkanen will just chuck from basically wherever. Like he'll take shots from like 3 or 4 feet behind the line, and it's still a good shot because he can make it from out there. And that just puts so much pressure on the defense when you have to guard a big guy, not only to like 23 feet at the 3-point line, but you have to guard him out to like 26, 27 feet. I know I've read stuff about how the Rockets do that with like Ryan Anderson and some other guys, just defending that extra few feet past the 3-point line opens up so many more things. And even you talk about Chris Dunn's development. I'm still not that high on Chris Dunn. He's had some really great games. That Mavericks game he had where he made basically all his jumpers. Like I'm still not totally sure about his ceiling because it seems like his jumper, it seems like it almost is painful to watch sometimes. I don't know if it's ever going to be really, really good, but I feel like he doesn't have to be that takeover guy. Like he could do it occasionally, but if you have Markkanen, you have that floor spacing and Levine, when we know that Dunn is pretty quick, he can take guys off the dribble. So I don't think we need Dunn to be like the complete stud guard that can make a ton of stuff out of nothing if they have that floor spacing out there, and that helps him a lot. So that'll be interesting to watch how he develops like that. So yeah, certainly. Like I know when the Bulls made that the Butler trade and they got these 3 guys that I had questions. We had questions about all of these guys, and so far I feel like so good and way better than we ever could have expected. While that is not maybe the best for the tank scenario that we had, so be it. I guess we're gonna have to live with that, and I can at least live with that since they're playing exciting, fun basketball right now. So, and it'll be interesting. Like we got the next month or so before the trade deadline. The Bulls play some weak teams. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep this up. The defense is still pretty bad, but the offense has been top half of the league since Nico came back. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to watch. It's at least a lot more. It's nice to at least have something to look forward to, and not just complete trash, beat down losses. So,
yeah. So let's talk about the big thing facing the franchise right now. And I want to write something on this, and I haven't yet. I'm still kind of trying to figure out my thoughts, but Mirotic is awesome, right? 26 years old, under a team-friendly contract next year. Does he want to be with the team after he got punched in the face and the team didn't really condone it? I mean, I don't know. Like maybe Mirotic doesn't want to be around. But to me, the more I watch the Bulls, the more I think, is it really beneficial for the long-term future of the franchise to get rid of Mirotic? And I just don't know if it is. Now, let's say the Bulls keep Mirotic for the rest of the season. Right now, they're 9 in the lottery standings. Let's say, theoretically, they finish 10 or 11 if they keep him the whole season. If they trade him, realistically, how much are they moving up? Do they finish 6? Do they finish, 7, 5? Is it really worth the difference in 6 picks? Your core piece, because the whole point of the rebuild is to accumulate good young players who your team can grow with. I think we've already seen the way the Bulls have been closing with Mirotic and Markkanen. At the same time, like that is in fact pairing for a lot of different reasons, mostly because of spacing. I think it opens things up for Chris Dunn. Like if you put Chris Dunn, let's say in the old Noah Gibbs or Noah Gibson front court, for as good as those 2 guys were, I think Chris Dunn would be struggling a lot more right now. I don't think he would have these flashes of brilliance because the game is just so much harder without those extra shooters on the floor. And by having 2 shooters in the front court with Mirotic and Markkanen, and then Portis too on the bench, they have another guy who can with a face-up game out to 3-point range.
Portis has actually been really good. Like I've never been a fan of Portis, and obviously he punched Nico in the face, and that was a whole disaster. Portis has actually taken legitimate steps forward this year, which has been, I guess, a pleasant surprise because I thought basically nothing of him. So continue. I wanted to give some love to Bobby Portis because he's been better than I expected.
Yeah, Bulls fans I think Bulls fans who are really big Bears fans love Bobby Portis because they think he's like a tough guy and shit. But in general, I don't know. I mean, Portis to me is still a bench guy.
He tops out as like energy big. He can knock down pick and pop jumpers. He'll flex for you a couple times a game, and definitely it. But like even that, I didn't even think he was really that. Like he'd have some of his games last year where he'd go crazy, but I feel like he's been a lot more consistent this year than just being like he'd have his 20-point game and then 3 or 4 games through his absolute dog shit. Like he's at least come along and provided a bit more consistent play, and I think he's a valuable guy. Valuable, maybe 4th big, 3rd big, and I mean that's good to have as a young player.
Yeah, I think he could be a third big for sure. Defensively, he's still kind of bad. He doesn't
Yeah,
think at
yeah,
all. But
absolutely.
I always compare him to Mo Space just because he was a gunner, and I still think that is kind of what he is. I mean, I don't know what his usage rate is. I really should pull up some stats here instead of just bullshit. And
He actually has like when I haven't looked at his usage rate, but I feel like every time I look at box scores, I see him have multiple assist games, and so I mean he's definitely doing a better job moving the ball and getting guys involved, which I guess that's perfect for the offense because obviously in past years like it was like a huge surprise when Portis would pass up a shot or would get multiple assists, and he's done that a lot more this year, which is like there's development right there. That's
all
good.
right, so here's the question though: Do you think it's beneficial to trade Mirotic to save 5 positions in the draft, 6 positions in the draft, or would you rather keep Mirotic and have him grow with the young core of the team? That's what I want to know from you. Jay.
I think if they can get a first round pick, I would still trend towards trading him. But then I would also go and trade Rolo as well. Like I feel like I don't want them to like half-ass this. I feel like if anything, trade as much of the veteran guys as you can and get assets, and then just turn it over to the young guys. And then I mean, if they make those trades and the Bulls still, I guess, ruin their draft position, that means the young guys are playing really, really fucking good. So I mean, it'd be hard to complain about that. Like I'm trying to think of what my limit would be for like a Nico. Like obviously, I do agree with the notion that they need to get a first rounder for him. Like trading him for a second rounder would be ridiculous considering how he's playing right now. That'd be a complete waste of value. So would you do it for a top 20? Like let's talk. Look at I know some people asked that on Twitter. Like some of the rumors that have been out there. Like they meant the Jazz have been mentioned, the Pistons have been mentioned, and I can't remember who the other team was. I think it was like the Blazers or something. Like, so you look at those options, and like I feel like the Jazz have been the most popular. The Derek Favors thing that came up, I didn't really understand that at all because there's like I feel like a straight up Nico Derek Favors trade. I mean, what does that do for the Bulls like at all? Like it is, doesn't make any sense. You're not going to get Favors and a first round pick, so that doesn't make sense. Like I've talked about maybe Nico and Jazz first for like Joe Johnson or maybe Tabo. I think Tabo, since Tabo's out for the year, just take on that dead money. But the thing is, with the Jazz, obviously the Jazz are in a lottery position right now. They're not going to make the playoffs unless they go on a huge run. Maybe Nico and Gobert's return would spur them on a huge run. I don't know. I would assume they had lottery. I would assume they would protect that pick lottery wise. Probably wouldn't get it this year. So maybe you get it next year and it's in the late teens. Like, is that worth it to you? I don't know. The Pistons are another team. I know like John Lure has been mentioned as a take on that contract. It's a couple of years at like $10 million. It's not that horrible. The Bulls have a ton of cap space, and so the flexibility, which they love to tout. And if you get a lottery protected pick there, you hope the Pistons hold on. They've been slipping bad lately, but you hope the Pistons get in the playoffs, and maybe you get like the 15th, 16th, 17th pick. Like, would you do that? What do you think?
Yeah. But it's like, let's say that you just keep Mirotic. Like, so if you trade Mirotic, I would love Jaren Jackson Jr. for a lot of reasons that he replicates what Mirotic could sort of do offensively. But you know what? Jackson, they're not really similar players at all, but they both do have that perimeter shooting ability. I think Jackson's a lot better defensively, especially his long-term potential. But he's not going to have Mirotic's like ball handling and Mirotic's ability to like drive from out past the three-point line. So if you keep Mirotic, and let's say you get like the 11th pick or the 10th pick or whatever, like then you already have theoretically your front court is set with Mirotic and Markkanen. Now you can just focus on what's the team's next biggest need: wings.
Wing.
Yeah. Need a wing. So then maybe you get Mikal Bridges from Villanova at 10, who I really like. He's a pure 3-and-D guy. He's not going to be someone who creates a lot of offense off the dribble. But you know what? Mirotic can create off the dribble. Dunn is obviously going to be an off the dribble creator. Same with Levine. And Markkanen can do it a little bit too. But then if you trade Mirotic, now you need to replace that other big man, and then you're waiting another year to fill the hole on the wing. So I don't know. I kind of want to keep Mirotic.
Well, I guess in that vein, the Bulls core is very young. Like they don't have to replace everything right away, and you're still the Warriors. I guess you're waiting them out a little bit. So like they shouldn't be, even though they look a lot better now. Like they don't have to speed this thing up super fast. I guess would be like they can still be patient and still be on their rebuilding path while making these moves. I don't know, because like I guess the question is like, do you see Mirotic and Markkanen as a viable long-term starting front court?
Oh wow, Chris Dunn just got diagnosed with a concussion. I'm seeing now on Twitter, so that's tough.
Interesting. Yeah, Dr. Zach Levine said yesterday that he was just fine. That's
after a second round of tests, Chris Dunn's been diagnosed with a concussion, according to sources. As of now, he won't be traveling with the team and will be evaluated at a later date. Concussions are scary, and I hate myself. This is the first thing I thought of because concussions are really, really, really scary. But now maybe they do lose some more games because without Dunn in there, I mean, they don't have a ton of guard depth. I guess Cam Payne will get a chance now.
Oh yeah, there we go. I guess are they going to hang on to Jaren Grant now? Because I know he was in like trade rumors as well.
Texted me sort of like a joke about Chris Dunn yesterday when it happened, and I'm like, "Yo, he might have a concussion from that. Like that was a nasty fall."
Yeah, that was because I watched it and I was like laughing about it, but then like concussions obviously aren't funny. Just I don't know how he did it. Like it was a breakaway dunk, like easy dunk, and the dude freaking face plants. Like, come on, guy, what is wrong with you? But yeah, concussion is obviously never good. Then and with this season, keep him out as long as possible. Like you want him to get back to full health. You never want to mess with head injuries like that. So obviously, hopefully get well soon, Chris Dunn. We'll see. That was from Vinny Goodwill. We'll see how long that he is out. Like I said, maybe this will mean more minutes for Jaren Grant. Whenever Cameron Payne's healthy, I don't really want to watch Cameron Payne. But
I don't want to watch the Bulls anymore. Chris Dunn's the only reason to watch. If I have to watch Jaren Grant, I'm not watching. I'll watch college. I'm watching Jaren Grant.
Anyways, back to the original question I had before that bit of news broke. Mirotic Markkanen, do you think that is a viable long-term front court?
Oh yeah, I like it. Now I did look up the on-off numbers, and they are not as encouraging as I thought. They do have a 117 offensive rating, which is nasty. That's just like league best type of offensive rating if like the whole team was performing at that, like 117. Defensively, they're at 129 defensive rating. So they've been bad defensively. That does not totally match my eye test. I thought that they've been pretty decent defensively because Mirotic has quick hands and he'll fight. And Markkanen's been better defensively than I thought he would be. He definitely doesn't look like a stiff out there.
There's small sample size caveat as well. It is only like 80 minutes or something like that. They haven't
80 minutes, but I feel like it's all crunch time minutes. Like
it definitely is. I feel like they never really used them that much.
And you know what? That almost makes me think Hoiberg's a good coach because that's not that I know anything, but that's what I would do. Close with Mirotic and Markkanen. Like last year, the biggest difference in the Bulls this year is that last year they were playing Mirotic the 3, and this year they're playing Mirotic at the 5. And you just see how that just opens up the entire floor when you move him up a line instead of down. You know, like no one wants to play 3 bigs at the same time. Like Bulls, this is not. You know,
the way the Bulls used Mirotic in recent years really was just stupid, jacking him around between the 3 and the 4. Like it never made any sense. They should have done Jimmy, and they should have done the Jimmy and Nico party. Empowered you. You've literally said it for like 2 years. They need to empower Nico.
Write that before the Bulls listen to
it. They finally did this year. I guess they finally worked it out. Now he's absolutely killing it. Like I'm still like waiting for him to come way back down to earth.
He probably will. I mean, he's not going to have a 23 PER the whole season.
Yeah, and like he's scoring he's like 18 points a game in like 24 minutes a game. Like his per like 36 possession numbers are absolutely insane. I looked up some numbers last night. 12 home games at the United Center this year that Nico's played. He's putting up like 20 and 7 in like 25 minutes a game. His true shooting percentage is like 66, 67, which is basically Steph Curry levels over. I think Steph Curry literally has like a 67 true shooting percentage for the season, which is outrageous considering his usage. But that's Steph Curry. So I just keep waiting for Nico to go through a prolonged slump because we've seen him have some hot stretches, but I feel like he's never. I mean, we're basically a quarter of a season worth of games for him now. I think he's played 20 or 21 games, and he's got insane numbers. And like it doesn't seem to be slowing down. And if it's just he's comfortable in the offense, or he's trying to prove himself for a trade, or just trying to prove himself in general after being so disappointing. Like I don't know. That's what makes the situation so difficult in terms of trading. Because do you really think this Nico is the actual Nico? Or do you think this is just all coming or just a huge regression wave is coming? And if you don't trade him now, and then the regression hits and he morphs back into the mediocre and consistent Nico, like, then have you wasted an opportunity? So it's like that's the dilemma that they're working with right now.
If you trade him now, you're trading him at peak value.
Yeah.
But you know, I do expect him to come back down a bit, but it's still like you just want core pieces for the rebuild. But then it's also like, are you missing out on a core piece by trading him? But then let's say you trade him and you get something like Pick and Jaren Jackson Jr. is gone, and now you're looking at Colin Sexton, Kevin Knox, Mikal Bridges, Miles Bridges. It's like, well, if we're going to be choosing between those guys, I'd rather just have Mirotić. But if you can get Jaren Jackson Jr., or if you can get Trae Young, or if you can get Bamba, then it's probably worth it to trade him. I guess in general for the Bulls, the future is always going to be preferable to the present for the reasons you mentioned earlier, for, waiting out LeBron and the Warriors, and just like they're still all pretty young. I mean, Markkanen's the only
20.
He's 20, and then Levine is
22, I think. Yeah. 22, 23, and Dunn's obviously a little older. But I still those guys are all super, super young. So like you wait a couple years, if you're still patient for a few years, it's totally fine. And they'll be in their mid-20s in their prime. And I mean, that'd be fine if they add pieces over the next few years. So yeah, it's really an interesting situation just with Nico. And would you look to trade Rolo? Like I'm all about trying to trade Rolo as well. Like
I like Rolo too.
Yeah, I like Rolo as well. Like he's a really solid big man. He's a pro. He's a good guy to have around. But I feel like if you can also get value for him, like he's not a long-term piece. So like
I feel like he is the Markkanen protector. Like part of the reason Markkanen has been better in this rookie season than we thought he would be is because he's had someone like Robin Lopez around, a veteran, who will allow him to get some defensive rebounds. When he was at Arizona, Markkanen was not a good rebounder. That I thought would be a big hole in his game. But instead, Robin Lopez just clears everyone out. He's so selfless. Stephen Noah wrote about it at The Athletic. Lopez is just such a good teammate. I think it's been so beneficial for Markkanen's development.
Screen setting as well.
Screen setting, yeah. Like the Bulls run like 4 or 5 dribble handoffs. Who does that? I love that Hoiberg is like going with stuff like that just to try to get Markkanen momentum going to the basket. We've already seen him put the ball on the floor better than expected. So yeah, you can talk about Lopez's value as, a rebounder, even if he's not putting up big numbers. You can talk about his value as a screen setter. He's a pretty good passer when they're running high-low stuff. So I just think in general, Lopez has been really beneficial for Markkanen. And I mean, they're not going to get a first rounder for him, right?
I would guess that is the case because I mean, I guess I just don't know the market for, like, obviously we said Rolo does so many good things, but like I'm just not sure who, because like a team that will want will be a contender, and I'm just not sure like what contender has a first round pick to give, and then also the salary to match up.
And he's not
where it works out.
Like we saw what happened when he had to guard a pick and roll against the Celtics last year. Like he was toast.
Yeah, and like obviously against the Warriors, and like Rolo had really solid numbers yesterday. Like at 16 points, 8 of 11 shooting, but he was also like a minus 28. Like he definitely has his flaws where he can't really guard. He's not that great at guarding. Like he's a solid defender in general in terms of protecting the rim, but in terms of like guarding guards and like pick and roll and stuff like that, he's a bit slow. So like that's the question. I'm just not sure where the deal is for him, where you can get that first rounder and it makes any sense. Like if they can get it, if something presents itself, like yeah, I mean I'm jumping on that for sure. Am I just gonna trade him for like a second round pick? Like I don't know.
If you trade, you know what I mean? Like you're trading him for the tank.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that'd probably be the best value of it. So like because if you do trade Nico and Rolo both, or even one of them, I mean that would probably get Felicio into the rotation. And I know we've loved Big Chris in the past, but good Lord, has he been atrocious this year?
I think Felicio could be a decent player. Like I don't think Felicio is totally useless. Like he had his moments.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what has happened. Like he was just absolutely terrible. So I don't know if he was out of shape or just not used to this offense, like running the way it is. But he just seemed completely lost and just completely
the offense is a lot faster. But the other thing too is like Felicio is the type of player he can't dribble or shoot.
Yeah.
So he's not a highly skilled guy.
Just a rim runner.
180-pound. Big center on like roller skates who can sort of move better than anyone that size should be able to move. And he needs a guard to get him the ball. That's why when the Bulls had Wade last year, you saw that Wade and Felicio had a little bit of a connection, run like some pick and roll stuff, some alley-oops off that. That was impressive. And now they just don't have a guard who's a natural assist man like that. Like, I am surprised Jaren Grant's assist percentage is as high as it is. Dunn needs to get a lot better as a passer. He needs to get a lot better in general. Dunn's pretty good with so much room for improvement.
Yeah, Dunn has been, his assists have gone up a lot in this month. And I think until yesterday, he had like 7 or 8 straight games of like 8 assists or more, which is really good. And I feel like he's cut the turnovers down a bit as well. There are still some times where Dunn just has just the most bizarre turnovers where he'll just straight up like lose the ball. I think might have been the Pistons game coming down I can't remember what game it was, but he was literally dribbling like around a pick and roll, and he just lost the ball, like slipped out of his hands. And I feel like that still kind of randomly happens.
It happens like 3 times a game.
Yeah, he's got to really tighten up his handle. But he has gotten a lot better. Like my opinion of Chris Dunn was so low after last season. Not that I watched like a ton of Timberwolves, but the Bulls games that I watched and some of the other games that I've watched, and just talking to other like Wolves bloggers and just looking at the numbers, like he just looked absolutely atrocious. And I was like, this guy freaking sucks. Like I have no hopes for him at all. And to get to the point where he's gotten, like I'm still not even that big a fan of him, but he's just so much better than I'd expected him to be this year. Where that's a huge plus in its own right.
What is he in RPM? Like I'm gonna pull up the RPM stats since I keep asking you stats. And
I think he's average, maybe.
I think he's like 44th best point guard. I'm looking it up.
It's still not that good.
No, I'm wrong. He's the 28th best point guard.
Yeah, so like whatever, like average point guard.
Yeah, like his advanced stats just aren't good, but his defense is obviously
like,
nasty.
Yeah, like the playmaking on defense is huge in terms of getting steals. He just seems to have a nose for the ball. Like I know I've thrown like it's not the perfect comparison, but like the Marcus Smart, he seems to make a lot of winning plays defensively with getting those steals and getting blocks. Like he's just a playmaker on defense. So like if Lowry and Levine, and if they get another wing scorer or something like that, that means Dunn won't have to do as much offensively. So if he can be just a distributor and a rabid defender and a guy who can occasionally make big shots, which he has made some big shots in games this year down the stretch. Like if he can do that, I think that's a win. Like we don't need him. The Bulls, I mean, it would be nice, I guess. People have like, oh, he's next John Wall. Like that's a bit of excessive. He doesn't have to be that. Like if he can be a poor man's John Wall, like or Eric Bledsoe, I've heard that comp as well. Like that works for me. That works for me.
His Bledsoe, that'd be huge.
Yeah.
My buddy compared him the other night to Rondo, which I think is a pretty interesting comparison. And he wasn't even looking at stats, but I think the stats match up pretty well too because neither can make a free throw.
Yeah, neither gets to the line. They don't get to the line.
Make a layup, and neither even gets to the line. So I do think there's a lot of comparisons there between Dunn and Rondo. Even though Rondo was like so tentative to try to make a layup, whereas Dunn will go for a layup and miss it. Like Dunn should be good at layups. Since he's back, because he's so long and he's so agile. And he seems coordinated, but like
it's really weird. He's just kind of he's just kind of a weird player. It's kind of weird, but it might kind of work because he has the skill set. But like you said he botches so many layups. His handle is crap, but he does a lot of little things well. So like I said, at least as far as we can tell, he is not a disaster, which I thought he was after last year. So that's a huge plus.
If he's a long-term point guard, the next time the Bulls are really good. Like if Trae Young is on the board. Which now it seems like Trae Young might not be on the board, but who knows? Trae Young sucked in his last game. Like things change quickly in conference play when you're talking about the draft. So if the Bulls get the 6th pick, let's say they trade Nico. Let's say they get the 3rd pick. Let's say they get into the they
get lucky. Yeah, it could still get lucky. Yeah.
Do you take someone like Trae Young or Colin Sexton, or are you like, nah, Chris Dunn is our dude. We're rolling with Chris Dunn. I mean, that's a huge question facing the franchise, and that's why I think Dunn is the biggest swing guy. Coming into this year, I thought the biggest question facing the future of the franchise was, is Markkanen a 4 or 5? I no longer give a shit about that.
He just looks awesome.
You can just put him anywhere, whatever. Yeah. I mean, still, you're going to have to figure out if you want like a Bamba type next to him, I guess. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. would be phenomenal next year.
Like I still think, like we talked about the Mirotic-Markkanen combo earlier, I still feel like, and you mentioned the bad defensive numbers, I still feel like I'm not sure if I would like Lowry as like a full-time rim protector. I think it'd be nice to have a legitimate one to have next to him, at least the majority of the time. Like I'm game for like the small lineups late in games, but like the Bulls defense is still pretty ass. Like overall, like the bottom 10, like they had that stretch when they won they had this 7-game winning streak where their defense was one of the best in the league. I think that was mostly a fluke. I looked up the numbers, and there was a lot of luck in terms of opponent 3-point shooting, where teams shot like under 30% from three. That's a lot of variance happens like that. They were showing improved effort and all that kind of stuff, but like I think in terms of long term, I still would like to have a legitimate rim protector there to take a lot of the minutes from Laurie at the 5 to play next to him. But in terms of, I'm fine with him playing.
You know who would be really good next to Markkanen?
Who?
Jordan Bell.
Who? Noel?
No, Jordan Bell.
Oh, Jordan Bell. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
So I'm saying like that, like you could find a type of guy like that, especially like if theoretically if you're closing with Markkanen at 5. I don't know if they're going to be doing that 5 years from now, but who knows?
I mean, they could be, yeah.
Then, like, do you really need to waste this massive chip on a center?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Like,
I mentioned Noel. Like, I would almost look into him for cheap because his value is totally in the shitter now. Like, he's going to be a free agent. I would see how much he'd be willing to sign for.
How much more is he getting than Felicio?
Oh, I don't even know because, like, he turned down, what, like $70 million over 4 years last summer. Which was obviously a huge mistake. And like now, like he's not playing with the Mavericks. Rick Carlisle probably hates him. Rick Carlisle was probably not the right coach for him. But I mean, he's had problems with the Mavericks. He's had problems with the Sixers. Like he just seems like he's a bit of a head case. He's injury prone. But like if the Bulls could sign him for super cheap, I would not be opposed to that at all. I've also kicked around the idea of throwing a massive offer sheet at Clint Capella. That might be a huge overpay, and I would assume the Rockets are going to do whatever they can to keep him. But I don't know. I've also thought about Aaron Gordon as well. Because the Magic are a joke, but I mean these are like pie in the sky, like crazy ideas. But like an Aaron Gordon Markkanen in front court seems like it'd be pretty freaking dope, and Capella Markkanen as well. Yeah, like, yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be sweet, but that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, to me, coming into this year, I wanted the Bulls to tank for 2 years. I thought a 2-year tank would be realistic. Then you'd have some dudes at that point to roll with. Then you'd be getting ready to pay Dunn at that point. You'd still have Markkanen under rookie scale contract for another year or two. And now I just don't know. Like, is it realistic to expect them to be one of the worst teams in the league again next year?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I think that what they've shown this year with Lowry being so good so fast, I would expect not, which isn't necessarily the worst thing because of the new lottery rules. Like, it's going to be the odds are going to be a bit more spread out. So it's not like being the worst next year.
In the top 5 worst teams instead of the top whatever. You know what I mean? Everyone's going to be tanking into that bottom 5 now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I would guess next year, like, I don't know. Like, I would expect them to take another step forward. I guess it also depends on who they sign. Like, we have no idea who's going to be on the team next year, what kind of trades they make now. Like, it's almost impossible to say because if they trade some guys now and if they draft another super young guy and if they don't really add anybody in free agency, like, they could be bad next year. I don't know. Like, I guess if the young guys take a huge step forward, maybe I wouldn't rule out possibly a lower end playoff chase the way that they're looking now. I don't know. I think it's really hard to say. Like, but either way, I would doubt they're going to be terrible next year. I feel like if they're terrible next year, that probably wouldn't be ideal, even if they did get another huge pick. I don't know. Like, I would rather not them be terrible next year. I'd rather them make trades now and get into a higher pick this year while the young guys still develop, and then maybe take a next step forward next year and then beyond. But I don't know. We'll see. Like, there's still so many moving parts, and it could be really interesting.
Yeah, the whole team is like ahead of schedule. Like, they should be doing this next year, not this year.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy.
So I don't know. They could really use another core piece. The nightmare scenario is that they sort of get trapped in this like 45 wins situation where they're not that good. They don't have a lot of upward mobility. They're paying Levine a contract that he's worth, but he's not like going to exceed the value of it at all. So I don't know. That's where they're stuck right now. Do you have any other loose Bulls thoughts you want to get to? Should we take some questions?
I figured it's we've yammered on enough about our own stuff. Let's look at some questions. Some of these we have answered already. So let's see if there's anything that we have not really gotten to. All right, here you go from friend of the program, at MK Hoops, coming from Australia. Number one Kirk Heinrich fan.
I don't like that.
Front office have saved their jobs with the outcome of the Butler deal looking favorable, which I would probably agree with. Like, obviously, I had been calling for them to be fired, but now that Lowry looks great, they're probably fine. Even though who knows if they were actually getting fired to begin with. But should there be a renewed sense of confidence in them going forward, given it looks like they found 3 nice pieces, or is this one major move still not enough to change perceptions of the job that they're doing?
I mean, they have not done a good job in general. You're crazy if you think they've done a good job. But you could run through all the bad moves. Kevin Farragon tweeted some yesterday. I have this up in front of me, so I'm just going to read Kevin Farragon, NBA Couch Side. Go follow him. Quality bro. He says, to everyone creating Garpax, reminder of a couple things. They, number one, traded Gary Harrison to Yusuf Nurkic, plus what amounted to 3 second-rounders to get Doug McDermott. Not cool. 2, traded Taj Gibson plus Doug McDermott plus a second-rounder for what amounted to Cameron Payne. Traded Tony Snell for Michael Carter-Williams. Let Etuan Moore walk in free agency. Etuan, we miss you. He's kind of been killing it this year for the Pelicans. I love watching him hit big shots. 5, signed Rondo and Wade to go with Butler despite obviously terrible fits. 6, traded Jimmy effing Butler and their own pick, 16, for Dunn, Levine, and the 7th pick. 7, sold their rights to Jordan Bell, completely inexcusable. So they didn't have anyone left on the board. And 8, never brought Martin in for a workout or interview. I mean, the Bulls have just screwed up so much. And he didn't even mention my favorite one on here. Cut Spencer Dinwiddie, who's been awesome. Spencer Dinwiddie is so much better than all these other point guards they kept instead of him. That one might be more on Hoiberg. I don't know. I don't know whose decision that is to keep him. But I would love if they had Spencer Dinwiddie on this team. He's been one of the reasons the Nets have been overachieving this year. So,
yeah, I agree. Like, obviously, it's kind of funny. I've mentioned this a few times where
you guys still suck. But we're rooting for you. I
will give them.
I want you to do well.
Yeah, I will give them credit for
the Butler trade. Looks a lot better now than it did.
Does.
Absolutely.
I give him credit for David Nwaba. David Nwaba is a dog.
I love Nwaba. Nwaba owns. That's what they need to do. If Nwaba is their Robert Covington, miracle of the process for this, awesome. I love Nwaba. The Curry stopper. Mark it down. Get it on his license plate.
Seriously. Like, and side note on Nwaba, it is hilarious that the Lakers basically bailed on Nwaba so they could sign KCP for 1 year and $18 million. Like that is absolutely terrible. Now the Lakers are also still terrible. And the Bulls have a better record than them, which is honestly hilarious. And I saw there was a whole, I guess I'll get your take on this because this was a huge argument I saw, or debate on Twitter I saw the other day. Whose young core would you take, the Bulls or the Lakers?
Yeah, I saw that. So Lonzo, Kuzma, Ingram versus Markkanen, Dunn, Levine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is Markkanen the best player out of that group?
I think there's an argument where he could be. Like, I think I would still lean towards the Lakers the guys because they're all. I think they're all super. Kuzma might be. Is Kuzma 22, 21?
Yeah, they're babies.
Yeah, like Lonzo and Ingram are obviously both like 20. And I still feel like Ingram, if he like develops into what he could be,
I like Ingram.
Probably has the best potential. I mean, he's a 6'9", athletic, long ass arms. If I get whatever. I get he's not. I get whatever.
Yeah.
Long ass arms, I guess, is what I was getting at. Long ass arms, just the wingspan. And he has the potential if he fills out because he's so fucking skinny. If he fills out and can be like a go-to stud on the wing who could play a bunch of positions and he gets a jump shot, like then he probably has the highest ceiling. But like I think there's a path for Lowry to be the best player out of that group. So like, I would still kind of lean towards the Lakers. Like I feel like it's not that like crazy to think those Bulls players could turn out better. And like Lonzo is obviously there's been so much hubbub about him, and he's still a really good player. He said his shooting has been awful, but he's come around a bit lately. Who knows if he'll ever be that good of a shooter? But he does so many other things well where he's probably going to be, at worst, a big positive in terms of his defense and ball handling. And
I'm so surprised his defense has been this touted.
Yeah.
What is it? I mean, he's just getting blocks and steals. Is their team defense a lot better with him on the floor? Like, what's the pro Lonzo case? Everyone's tuning out now. Everyone hates Lonzo. Why are we talking about Lonzo? But
yeah, I don't know. But I mean, either way, like I feel like that's a pretty good argument. Like just between those two young cores, which is hilarious, because the Lakers have legitimately been awful for 3 or 4 years and have been tanking, and now the Bulls have a better record than them and might even be better set up for the future. I won't say they are better set up. I would still, like I said, I still think I'd take those Lakers young guys, but but it's a kind of an interesting discussion to have, and it'll be something to monitor in the next few years. Let's see. We'll go to the next question. Was Zach? This is from @JollyKerner, Kerner. Was Zach LaVine always this hopelessly lost on defense in Minnesota, and is that salvageable in any way?
Okay, well, first of all, we've only seen Zach LaVine. Oh, this is my boy, Matt Kerner, dude. We went to a concert.
Yeah, there you go.
Concert. Zach LaVine's defense was always bad. Absolutely.
Yeah.
From what you've seen from him with the Bulls, I mean, it's been 3 games. He's coming off a torn ACL, so like you can't really make any sweeping judgments about how he was in Chicago yet. But like smart NBA people like Zach Lowe always said that LaVine was a disaster on defense. So I expect him to be minus defender. So LaVine's like he's an eye test guy, and that's sort of the problem. Is like the eye test with LaVine looks really good. But then, like, when you put it all together, like, how much is he actually contributing to winning? I think that's a little bit of a scary thing when you're talking about paying him $20 million next year. And I'm a huge LaVine fan. He was always one of my boys. And he's a good player, for sure. He's going to have a good, long NBA career. But
Bulls could have drafted him when he first came out.
He would have been great with
Jimmy and LaVine on the wing. That would have been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, like, his metrics, the eye test defensively, he's lost. I know Stephen No was running some clips. The Bulls guys over the Athletic will run some clips about him getting lost on defense, and I'm not that concerned about that yet. Expecting him to be a good, even an average defender after being terrible, and then an ACL is not something to expect. I won't expect him to ever be good defense this year. It seems like he should have the tools to be at least average. Like, we don't need him to be good. He seems like he's going to be an awesome offensive player. Obviously, he shot poorly last game, and his shot selection might have to be reined in a bit, but in terms of just creating off the dribble his own shot, and he did some nice things in pick and roll in a couple of the other games.
That was at the Miami game. He was dropping dimes.
Yeah, he looked awesome. So he can be an awesome offensive player. So if he can be just passable defensively, like that'd be huge. Like, as long as he's not a liability on the defensive end, like that would make for an awesome player, potential all-star, and that'd be great. So like, is it salvageable? I still think it would. He's still super young. Hopefully they can coach him.
I'm saying
to better awareness, but you say not salvageable at all? You think it's
a defensive player?
Fair enough. That's totally fair. Like I
have more faith in Markkanen's defense than LaVine's defense.
Well, Markkanen at least has looked already like he's at least passable. He can defend on switches. We saw him block Steph Curry into a ball back into his dome yesterday. That was pretty dope. Like I said, I don't know if Markkanen will ever be like a big-time rim protector, but in terms of a guy who can at least guard in the post, who can guard on switches, he seems like he can do that decently well, which is basically all I could ask for what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Let's see. I know this was a few questions. A few people had these questions. Our guy VJ had a question about Felicio and Zipser. We kind of talked about Felicio, and then here's another guy @SirBrianG2. Felicio and Zipser have regressed this year. Is this their ceiling? What do they need to do to earn back rotation spots? Has this staff shown that they can develop role players like these two? So we talked about Felicio a bit. What is Zipser has been just atrocious. Like he was never that good, but he showed some all right things last year. I feel like he's been worst player in the league bad this year. I'm not sure what happened to him. I don't know.
Felicio, we already talked about a little bit. I think that he just needs some guards who are really good because he's just such a limited player in terms of skill set. Like he just needs someone who can like really set him up. Totally writing off Felicio, but you know, I'm looking actually for the play-by-play stats for Zipser. I want to see what position he's been playing because my theory on Zipser is that he'll be better at the 4 than the 3. So pulling this up right now. So, yeah, no, I'm wrong about this. He's actually played more 4 this year. So as a rookie, he played 79% at the 3. This year, he's playing 64% at the 3 and 36% at the 4. Yeah, so I mean, maybe Zipser's bad, but like he's a second round. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it is whatever. It is just.
Yeah. I mean, if the question is, are you going to cut him? I don't know. If there's someone better, you cut him. You know, it's a meritocracy, but like long term, he was probably never going to be a huge part of the plan. So he's just like someone you just roll with, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously at this point, like Nwaba has burst past him in the rotation. So like
Nwaba just rules. Nwaba is the light that guides Bulls Twitter.
yeah. So yeah, at this point, like maybe Felicio, like if they make a trade, he'll get back in the rotation just because they'll need front court minutes from somebody. My expectations wouldn't be very high, but maybe he can. He did the last. I think it was the Knicks game. Felicio showed finally a pulse. There was some energy. Wasn't a complete train wreck. So maybe he'd come around if he does get a few minutes. Like I said, I kind of hope. Like I said, I kind of hope they make a trade and then he gets minutes to see what they have with him. I mean, they freaking have him under contract for 3 more years after this one. Like I was totally fine giving him that deal. Like $8 million for like what seemed like a fine backup center. I got no. Like I'll trash Garpax like for plenty of stuff, but I will not trash them for that. I thought it was fine, and it just has not worked out. He has regressed, which is unfortunate. But maybe he'll snap out of it. Maybe if there is a trade and he gets more minutes, he figures things out. But Zipser, like you said, he's second round pick, minimal contract. I would assume he won't be here for that much longer.
Problem with the Felicio deal is that they played themselves. They gave him a contract based on last year's market, not this year's market. So like people like me and you might have been tweeting, "Oh yeah, I'll give Felicio $8 million," but you got to read the market. And
they did give it to him like right away. I think they
right away.
Yeah.
What does Felicio get on the open market? Does he even get? I mean, honestly, he got $36 million guaranteed. How much money guaranteed does he get in the open market? $8 million maybe from someone else.
I mean, maybe an MLE type, but like certainly some of the deals that we saw given out, like
dude, centers don't get paid at all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw what happened with Noel. Like, yeah,
no, the market, especially on a player who's not that good.
Yeah, that is true. Like, I won't kill him that much for that, but I guess the fact that they rushed into that deal is kind of, you can kind of criticize them for that, I guess. But whatever, it won't be the end of the world. Like that contract's not going to kill them. They're going to have so much space anyways where it's probably ultimately going to be a non-factor either way. Unless
you didn't need to take care of Felicio that quickly. This is stupid.
Fair enough. Let's see. Okay, here's a question from, we've probably kind of touched on this, but I kind of like the question anyways, from Travis Wills at Wills. Travis, here's a two-parter. We kind of answered the Nico one already, which is the second parter. The first part, though, of the current starters, how many do you think they have to get rid of or slide to the bench to be a team that makes an Eastern Conference Finals? Like, I would assume that our core 3 is probably going to be the main guys, and then they'll just have to need a new center and a new small forward. Or do you think on an Eastern Conference, we kind of talked about this as well. Like, do you think Chris Dunn is the starting point guard in the Eastern Conference Finals team?
Probably not.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I like Chris Dunn. I'm rooting for him. But like, look at all the good point guards. I guess Kyle Lowry is a starting point guard on the Eastern Conference Finals team, but Kyle Lowry rules.
Yeah, and Lowry, the last couple of years, Lowry was one of the best point guards in the East. So like,
yeah,
that's tough. Like, I feel like
Kyle Lowry. I feel like no, but Kyle Lowry wasn't any good either when he was young. Kyle Lowry was the backup on the Rockets, and like he was everywhere. You know,
he's a little like chubby guy.
He got good as he got old. And point guards in general, I think, get good when they get old. That's the position where you're best, unless you're like a freak like D Rose or Westbrook. But Westbrook has shown no effects of aging, which has been awesome. But like, I feel like that's a position where you're better at 27 than 23 for sure.
I could see that. Obviously, Markkanen.
I'm not answer this question. I think Markkanen's your one keeper.
Yeah, LaVine out. You'd probably think yes. You would, I guess, hope yes, but not for sure.
How about this? If they draft Trae Young, which now sort of seems unlikely, but who knows? Can Trae Young and LaVine be on the court at the same time? So not only do you then maybe have to get rid of Dunn because Dunn could be good next to Trae Young because he could defend the guy's trade.
He could defend the point guard, and you could hide Young on.
Yeah,
somebody, but I don't know.
Dunn, I feel like if Dunn doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's going to be bad. But maybe he gets better offensively without it. But then like LaVine and Young at the same time, I mean, you'd be bleeding points defensively. So then maybe you get rid of both of them. But if Trae Young is that good, then it's worth it. But that good is such a high bar to clear, like the level of good that we're talking about. So I don't really know how to answer our boy Travis's question. I would say that Markkanen is the only surefire. I'll roll with LaVine because I like LaVine. I'm being like cautious about LaVine, even though I've always liked his game.
Yeah.
And Dunn in general, I feel like he's the swing guy. Chris Dunn's the swing.
I agree. He's kind of a toss-up because he's shown so much improvement, but Still just not sure how good he actually is and what a ceiling is. It's it's interesting. We have talked some draft, but here's another draft question, which I will let you answer, Mr. SB Nation draft guy. If the Bulls pick, say, in the late lottery, between like where they're right now, 8, 9 to 14, so that's the back end of the lottery, who would be your favorite options? We talked about Jaren Jackson. It seems like he might go a little for that. I know you've talked about Mikal Bridges, both Bridges, I guess, Mikal, Miles Bridges, Colin Sexton. Who else? Who would you prefer, or what other names would be out there around that range at the tail end of the lottery?
Let me look it up. I think that Mikal Bridges is the first name that comes to mind if Jaren Jackson's gone. I like Jaren Jackson more than Bagley.
Dude,
there's a draft take for you. There's one that's going to get thrown in my face come draft time a lot. But I really like Jaren Jackson's game. I feel like Bagley could be sick. Like Bagley could keep improving. He's so ferocious, so athletic, so agile. So, I mean, Bagley, he could be pretty good. How about this guy who made his debut last night for Kentucky, Jared Vanderbilt? He was De'Aaron Fox's teammate in AAU on Houston Hoops. Saw those guys play a lot back in the day. Jared Vanderbilt was sort of one of those 5-star recruits at the top of his class for his entire high school career. He committed to Kentucky as McDonald's All-American. He's been out, but he can really handle the ball, can really defend, 6'9", cannot shoot at all. So maybe that's an issue. But I think he could be pretty interesting. Troy Brown, I like, 6'7" wing from Oregon, but he hasn't done much lately. Same thing with Lonnie Walker, physically talented freshman, 6'4" from Miami, 2-guard recovering from a torn meniscus, but he hasn't been really good. So who do I mean, I like Mikal Bridges. He would probably be the guy I would take. I'm not super high on Miles Bridges, but players like Miles Bridges are generally better in the NBA than they are in college when they have more of an open floor. Miles Bridges right now in Michigan State, he's like trying to impress NBA scouts with his jump shot instead of just like being just a more explosive player who could be really good on cuts and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if Miles Bridges, even though he's had a down sophomore year and he's probably regretting his decision to come back.
Yeah, I'm still confused why he did that. But that's
Robert
prerogative.
Neither of those guys really makes sense. And then there's, Hamidou Diallo, who I think is another guy who's just like a freaky
athletic freak. Yeah.
He has really high defensive upside. I do question his feel a little bit from watching him. I haven't watched him a ton of Kentucky, but I don't think he's a natural ball handler.
You mentioned Kentucky. And I think you mentioned Knox a little earlier. What do you think about Kevin Knox?
Yeah, I like Knox. To me, he's going to have to play the 4 in the NBA more so than
fair enough.
You want a sleeper?
Gerald
Vick from Kansas. I don't know if you have watched him at all. He's an asshole. He's so I'm not like rooting for Gerald Vick, but his game is pretty sick. 6'5", he's skinny though. He's like 180 pounds. He shoots the hell out of the ball. He's shooting like 43% from 3. He's athletic. He can dribble a little bit. So I like Gerald Vick. If they could, I think he's gonna end up being a first rounder. And then another guy, Chandler Hutchison from Boise,
right? Yeah,
best senior in the country. He just dropped 44 on San Diego State. He's a do-it-all wing. The question for him is he's like a slasher who's learned to shoot. And those are the best guys, like a 6'8" slasher who's starting to learn to shoot. Awesome, because he could do a lot of stuff with the ball in his hands in terms of driving. So those are just some names I'm throwing out there. Mikal Bridges is still my boy. Mikal Bridges is like, what if Nwaba was 6'7" and could shoot threes? It seems like
sounds good to me. Yeah,
that's how nasty Mikal Bridges is on defense. And they both have 7-foot wingspan, so you have the length. I would take Mikal Bridges, but he's not going to create a lot offensively. He's not going to run a pick and roll for you, Mikal Bridges. He's a straight 3-and-D guy. But you know what? Good 3-and-D guys are valuable. A really good
and the Bulls need another like Nwaba is obviously really good, but he's still he's a little on the smaller side. Like they need a big wing who can play defense. They need
Mikal. I'll take Mikal, and I want Jaren Jackson 1. I want Mikal 2, and that's if they can't get Luka. Even all these top guys, see, this is my thing with this straight tank. Like Ayton has a lot of questions about how to protect the rim. Bagley has questions about his 3-point stroke and protecting the rim. Bamba has the offensive skill set of like an 8th grade. Maybe
is Bamba like Biombo? Like is that like a reasonable comp?
I don't know. He's way more agile. Like Biombo has like historically bad hands and
yeah, this is true.
I would maybe take See, here's the thing. Center is the one position where defense definitely matters more than offense.
Yeah, for sure.
And Ayton sucks at defense, and Bamba's sick at defense. So maybe I would take Bamba over Ayton, even though Ayton looks like David Robinson. Bamba's the wild card.
Ayton should be a freak. I've watched a few Arizona games this year, and like he is such a man child. And then he doesn't block. I think he has under 2 blocks a game, which is like insane for his physical profile. And I was watching, and it seems like I don't know if it's just because it's college. I don't know if it's coaching. It just seemed like he tries very hard defensively, and like the awareness just isn't totally there with him. Like I don't want to totally like wreck the guy, because he seems like he should be an awesome prospect and just complete monster. But like I've seen some troubling signs from him, and just there was one play in particular where like he was guarding weak side defense, and there was a drive coming from the other side. Guard was beat, and he literally stood on the weak side and didn't even come over to help, like block the shot. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like this is your thing, man. Come over and block the shit out of that shot. And he literally did not move from the opposite block. It's like, come on,
I saw him play in high school quite a bit, and he was the power forward on his high school team too. He played with Brandon Ingram on Brandon McCoy on Cal. Yeah. Brandon McCoy is a UNLV freshman who could also be a first-round pick in this draft. He wasn't even a center on his AAU team. He always said that he wanted to be a wing. When we would talk to him and be like, well, if I can defend the perimeter, I should be able to play the perimeter. It's like, bro, you're 7 foot 260, 7'6" wingspan. You're a center at any level, especially at this level, but you're a center at the NBA too. So I don't know. A lot of these young wings just haven't looked super good yet. Like Lonnie Walker hasn't really done anything to set them apart. Bruce Brown, his teammate in Miami, hasn't really done anything to set them apart. I'm almost wondering if we're sort of trending towards this class being heavier on upperclassmen who didn't have big draft profiles coming into the year than on these young guys, because these young guys don't look very good right now. But someone like Kyrie Thomas on Creighton has been really awesome. There's a dude on SMU, Ben, I don't know his last name. He's with an EG. He's been really good. He's a stud defender who's learned to shoot this year. He was like a sub 30% shooter. Now he's shooting like 56%. I'm going to Google his name. I'm a college basketball guy. I should know these things.
How about Shake Milton?
Shake Milton, I love. I've always been a big Shake Milton guy. He is not very quick, though, and he's not a guy who's going to break down the defense with his dribble, but he's a really good three-point shooter. He's 6'6".
Yeah, because I saw highlights last night that he had 33 at Wichita State, and SMU won, and he shot incredibly well. So and now looking at his numbers right now, and he's putting up like 18, 5 and 5, 44% 3-point shooting. That seems like it's pretty damn good. So like
44% every year of his career. I don't really know who to compare him to, because he's not really. I mean, maybe like George Hill, but I feel like George Hill's better at defense. First of all, just a quick aside, how good is Ntilikina? I feel like Ntilikina is going to be a stud. What do you think about that?
I don't know, because he's obviously very raw offensively, but like in terms of like a defensive monster, like it's all the tools are there, and he's shown the ability to like lock down really good guards so far.
Stock, if that's stock, you know what I mean?
The Knicks need to start playing him a lot more. Like, get off the fucking Jarrett Jack. Like, I know Jarrett Jack's a fine veteran, like whatever. He had a triple-double against the Bulls, which was just ridiculous. But like, play Frank. The Knicks are going nowhere. They're like 5 games under 500 now. They gotta let Frank loose and just let him play through his growing pains a bit. Frankie smokes.
Frankie smokes. So my big draft takeaway is like maybe some of these veterans are gonna be better than some of the freshmen. Maybe this is the year of the college veteran. You know, keep an eye on Kevin Hervey from Texas Arlington. Keep an eye on Kyrie Thomas. Keep an eye on Svi from Kansas. Maybe Raleigh Elkins from Arizona. I mean, there's some guys in this draft who were not mentioned as first-round picks or college veterans who are looking better than a lot of the freshmen McDonald's All-American types.
Interesting. So I said I've watched some of these guys. But you know a lot more than I do, so I will take your word for it on that. Dive into some draft stuff as we get closer to the draft. Looks like that's most of the questions. We've answered most of the questions. So I guess we've been going on for like an hour now. We could probably wrap it up here. I guess to wrap it up, do you have any predictions for how the rest of the season goes? Like, how many wins do you think the Bulls will get? Do you think they'll make a trade or 2 or more? Like, how do you think the rest of the season is going to play out?
I think they trade Nico. I hope they get a first rounder for him. I think they trade Lopez. Right now, the Bulls, as we speak, are 17-28. They would have the 9th pick if the lottery started today. They'd have the 9th best odds. I mean, can they get up to 7? Can they get up to 6? If they trade Nico, that's what I want. I want them to get in the top 6, top 5, hopefully.
See, let's look at Tankathon. So let's see. They're like you said, they're 9 right now. They are like 2 games behind the number 4 slot right now. Like you look at some of these teams, like the Mavericks have been playing a bit better lately. They lose a lot of close games. The Lakers need the Lakers are like 0-8 without Lonzo, and not that Lonzo has been that amazing or that good, but like their backups are so bad that they fall apart with them. The Grizzlies are such a weird team because like they're not tanking, but they might. I wonder if they end up shutting Conley down. The Nets are kind of hit or miss. The Suns have Devin Booker, who's awesome, and like I feel like the Bulls, if they make trades, I think could still get pretty high because if they trade Rolo and Nico, I don't know. I think that'd be a huge loss to their rotation if they traded both of those guys.
Yeah,
like
a lot of Felicio minutes.
Yeah, Felicio minutes. I think they should look to trade Justin Holiday too. I like Justin Holiday like as a nice like. I like the signing, but like if you can get something for him, trade him, get him out of here. He's 28 years old. He's whatever. Like he's shooting like 38% from 3. He's been awesome lately. Last night he was not good, but like if you get some, if you can get value for him, get something for him. Like absolutely. Like if they trade 2 of those guys, all 3 of them, whatever. Like and if some other bums take their spot, like the Bulls could probably end up losing a hell of a lot of games and possibly get back in the top 5 seed. I don't know if they'll end up doing it. I would guess they'll make at least 1 trade. That's a coward to say. I'm not really sure. I would guess they'll probably end up trading Nico. I mean,
they're trading Nico.
All the signs have been pointing to it. Like I know he says all the right things in the media, but all the reporting just seems that he'd prefer to move on. I feel like he's worth a first-round pick. Like somebody should give him a first-round pick. I feel like I've seen some Jazz people say that they wouldn't trade their first for him. But like if you lottery protect it, and if you keep your pick this year and then you end up giving it up next year, like I feel like it's totally worth it to put Nico next to Gobert. Like that's a really good pairing, and with Mitchell, who's fucking awesome. Like that's a pretty damn good trio. And they have some other decent players. Like that's pretty damn good. Like I feel like they should have no problem giving up that pick. But I guess some Jazz fans that really aren't that high on that. I don't know, but in terms of wins. I feel like I made a prediction the other day that after I can't remember which game it was, after they won either the Pistons game or the Heat game, I think I said that they would get to like, if they don't make any trades, I think they could get up to like 35 or 36 wins and like get semi-close to the playoffs. Like I think people that talk, like some people that, oh, the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. Like they're still like 6 games out of a playoff spot.
They're playing 65% ball with Mirotic though.
They are, but I feel like I told you they've won so many close games, and I feel like they're just due to have some of those go the other way. Like they'll stay competitive, I think, no matter what. Even if they make trades, I don't think they'll end up being like really off, like back to being awful like they were before the beginning of the year. But I feel like if they make these trades, maybe they get to 30 wins. What you said, 17 and 28. So that's what 45 games, and so there's 37 left. They'd have to go 13 and what is that? Can't do fucking math. 13 and 24 to get to 30 wins. Like I feel like they'll do that. They might even do that with trades. I feel like they'll probably end up in the low 30s somewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, they already got 17.
Yeah, I would probably say a safe bet would be 33, 34, and maybe if they trade a bunch of these guys out, they end up around 30 or high 20s if they really go into the tank. And I guess with this Chris Dunn injury now, seeing how long he's out, that could also affect things. But yeah, I guess I would put somewhere in the low 30s would make sense, trades or not, just because they have been playing a lot better, just even if they make those deals. So I don't know. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, low 30s seems right. I mean, they already got 17, so I'll say low 30s.
Yeah,
31 wins for the Bulls, I guess. I don't know. But then if they trade Mirotic, we're going high 20s. We need a high 20s win total here. We'll say 28 wins for the Bulls, 27 wins maybe. Because, I mean, if Dunn's out, if they trade Mirotic, like, they're just going to tank badly. So we shall see. I guess, like I said, I said the tank is basically dead. I guess it's not totally dead. It's just mostly dead. It's probably on the side of the road. Never dead.
It's leaking oil. but it is not quite totally dead. Although I still think it's kind of dead, but whatever. It is at the very least, even if they do make trades, there are good reasons to watch this team for the rest of the year. They play exciting. They have young guys that play hard. They play a fun style. That's really all you can ask for. I would rather them lose a bit more games on the stretch and get that higher pick for sure, because they're not going to make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, that's absolutely incredible. And I guess if they do make the playoffs, that's good for them. And that would mean that the young guys were way better than expected. While that may not be great for the long term, the best for the long term, maybe it is. Maybe going to the playoffs would be better than getting another high draft pick. I don't know, but either way, it's been fun to watch them lately. So that at least we've had something to look forward to watch games. And yeah, so I guess that's basically us wrapping it up here. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow me, Jason, at Bulls_J, our subset bloggable.com. You can also find me at FanRag Sports. Ricky at SBN_Ricky. A lot of stuff at SB Nation. He's their draft guy. So if you're interested in Bulls draft coverage, Ricky does mock drafts, does a lot of good features on prospects and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll be back to talk soon. Maybe around the trade deadline. The trade deadline is I believe February 8th, so it's in a couple weeks. The Bulls make some deals, but the trade deadline we'll probably reconvene and talk again. But for now, just we'll enjoy the fun Hoy Ball and all that good stuff. So Ricky, good talking to you. Take it easy.
Take it easy, Jay.